But she's the last.
Yes, okay. So we are doing a practice of what we did yesterday, plus you have a CBA on Thursday. Okay, then on Friday, no, you have a pep rally.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why instead of waiting to do the CBA on Friday, or just get a Friday, you can just have a chill day. Okay, so we're going to CBA on Thursday, so we're going to do a little bit of review today, a little bit of review tomorrow. We should be able to do almost all of this together in class pretty easily. Maybe you'll have one or two to do on your own. And then tomorrow will be the same. Okay, so Thursday you have a CBA, Friday, pep rally day, you can do whatever you want. Okay, then on Monday we'll have regular class, and then just remember no school on Tuesday. For you, but not for your teachers. Okay, got it? Alright, so the first three are very similar. The last two are similar. There's 5 total. So we're going to just work through the first one, and then we'll do the third one. So look at it first. When is f of x equal to 0? Look at the graph. What does equal to 0 mean? Where should I be if I'm looking for equal to 0? Okay, so look at your graph. Am I equal to 0 down here? When? Here?
Yes.
Then here? No. Till when? Here? And then here. So put dots on your zeros. So my zeros are x equals -1. What about this one?
4.
Okay, so I don't know why the numbers are backwards. Just count it regular. So this is 1. This is 2. I somehow managed to flip the graph backwards. I don't know how I did it. So just ignore it. So -1, 1, and 2. Okay, now when is f of x greater than 0? Well, greater than 0, does that mean positive or negative? Positive. And where are my positives? Should it be above the x-axis or below the x-axis? Above. So I want all of the parts of the graph that are above the x-axis. So I'm going to shade them in pink on mine. If you're using a pencil, you can just kind of shade it regular. Okay, but is it positive on this part of the graph?
No.
No. When does it turn positive? After -1. Then when does it hit the x-axis again? 1. Then what happens here? Is it positive?
Negative.
It's negative. Then what happens here? Negative. So what is the section of the graph where f of x is greater than 0? From -1 to 1. Okay, now next I want to know when f of x is less than 0. Well, less than 0 means negative. Where should my graph be? Below the x-axis or down. Very good. So when I'm looking at my graph, I'm looking for my down sections. I have a down section here. I have one here. And I have one here. That little chunk right there. So how many sections of the graph are there? 1, 2, and then 3. So let's list them out. What are the endpoints for this? How far does this go back if it's an arrow? -infinity. And then when does it hit the x-axis that chunk stops? -1. Union. Next chunk, I'm on this little smiley part of the graph. What are my endpoints? 1 to 2. Very good. Okay, and then I put my little union. My last chunk, it starts at 2 and it goes until when? Till infinity. Very good. And then someone in the other class was confused. Why isn't it -infinity? Remember that for x's, you're talking about forward or backwards. So it doesn't matter that it's pointed down. It's more important that it's pointed forward. Hey, what's up? You just need the work for today? How was your field trip? And here are the notes and the homework. And I'll send the video. If I forget, though, just ask me for it, and I'll send it to you. Okay? All right, next question. Look at your graph. Even or odd?
Even?
How do you know? Even is correct. Because the ends go the same way. Okay, so remember, even, the ends both go down. Now, not only is it even, but it's a negative even. Do you remember talking about that? So even means that they both go up or they both go down. A positive even, they both go up. A negative even, they both go down. Okay, next one. I want x to be approaching infinity. Which end of the graph should I be looking at? The front end or the back end? Okay, x to infinity is forward. What is my graph doing as my x's go forward? To negative infinity. Okay, negative infinity here means I'm looking at the left end of the graph. The left end of the graph. And if I look at the left end of the graph, which way is it pointed here as well?
Down.
Down to negative infinity. Okay, now remember that if x is approaching a number, if it's at an asymptote, you're going to be going to one of the infinities. Okay, but if it's not at an asymptote, you're just looking for the y value. So, at 2, is there an asymptote in the graph? Yes or no? Look at your graph here. At 2, is there an asymptote there? No. So, at 2, as I trace from the left side of the graph, remember we kind of learned this yesterday, as I trace from the left side of the graph, what are my y values getting closer to when I get closer to the orange line? 0. What about as I come in from this side, what are they getting closer to? What's the y value? Getting closer to 0. So down here, for my left and my right side, my y value is getting closer to 0. Now, we'll look at ones where you have an asymptote there, but since that one was regular, I'm just looking at the y value. Okay, next one. Find the domain of the function's inverse. Okay, so question, what do you remember about inverses? Their domain and range are always what? They're always flipped or backwards from each other. So I'm going to put inverse, domain, and range are switched. So if they want the domain of the inverse, what am I looking for on this graph? Instead of the domain, what am I going to really find? The range of this graph. So the domain of the inverse means that I want the range of this graph. Okay? So let's find it. Remember that range is x or y. Which one? Range are your y's. So what is the lowest point on the graph? Look up at your picture. Does it have a lowest point? No. How low does it go if it has arrows pointing down? Negative infinity. Okay, and then how high does it go? What's the highest point on the graph? 2. Okay, then remember that infinity is open because it's not really a number. 2 is closed because it is a number. So this is the lowest the graph goes. This is the highest the graph goes. Make sense? Okay, but then one more time. Why did I find the range? Because it's not asking me for the domain of this graph. It's asking for the domain of the inverse. Those are always opposites. Okay? All right, last question. Write the equation for the graph shown above. Remember that you need to look at the x-intercepts. So look back at your graph. I'm going to come up to the graph here. If the first answer was a -1, what would the parentheses have to say to go with that? Y equals what? X plus 1. Very good. Because remember, I'm always switching up the signs. Okay, what was my next x-intercept after -1? Positive 1. And for positive 1, what would the parentheses have said? X minus 1. Okay, then I have one more left. Look back up at the top. What was your next x value? 2. And if it's a positive 2, what did the parentheses have to say? -2. Now, question, something's wrong. We said that this graph was supposed to be even. Do I have an even number of x's? Count them up. How many are there?
3.
1, 2, 3. Something's wrong. Look back at your graph. One of your roots is a double. Do you know which one? 2. Why is it 2? What happens in the graph? Do you remember? It's a bounce. So look at the graph. At x equals 2, that is a bounce because graph doesn't pass through the x-axis. And remember that a bounce on the x-axis, where it touches it and then turns back on the same side, remember that a bounce counts as a double root. So what am I going to do to show that my x minus 2 is the double root in the equation? What do you put on it? A little squared, a 2. Good. So look, watch. I'm going to come down to my graph right here, and I'm going to put a 2 right here to show that that was my double root. Make sense? So that little squared means that that's your double. Questions about that? Okay, turn the page. Next one. So we are going to skip the second one and we're going to go to the third one. Okay? So I'm going to pass over this one. You can do it. Okay, we're going to go to the third one right here. Okay, so first question, when does f of x equal 0? Well, f of x equals 0 anywhere the graph touches the x-axis. So where does the graph touch the x-axis?
1,
Okay, 1,
4,
4, and 5. So I'll put x equals 1, 4, 5. Okay, now next question, look at your graph. Okay, this is just thinking ahead. Are any of those bounces? Yes, which one?
5.
Okay, this one. So I'm going to write that's a double root because it's a bounce.
How do you know?
A bounce means it doesn't go through the x-axis. So like this one, it passes through. This one passes through. This one touches it and then goes back up. That's a bounce. Or it can touch it from below and then go back down. Okay? So f of x greater than 0, do I want it to be above or below? Above. So I want you to use your pencil to shade all the parts of the graph that are above the x-axis. Where is it above the x-axis?
1.
All the way till 1. Then it goes negative for a while. Then I have a little positive section here. And then I have a positive section here.
So 1 to infinity?
So I'm actually going to say from negative infinity to 1. Because I'm going all the way back to the very end of this graph. So that would be going to the left forever. Okay, then what about this little rainbow right here?
4 to 5.
4 to 5. Don't forget your little u. And then what about my last little chunk right here?
5 to
5 to infinity. Good job, Miriam. Okay? Because I'm above the x-axis. Okay, now for the less than zeros, I want to be below the x-axis.
Where you go?
So we're just picking, we have this part is above, the little rainbow is above, and then that's above. Okay, where is it less than 0 or below the x-axis?
1 to 4.
Okay, from what?
1 to 4.
1 to 4, correct.
Negative infinity.
Negative infinity because it's pointed to the left. So even though it's pointing up, remember that when you're doing x's, you're just looking at front and back. Okay? Alright, next one. Is this one even or odd?
Odd.
Okay, remember, evens, the ends go the same way. Odds, the ends have to go opposite ways. So where are my ends pointed? Both up. That makes it which type? Even. Now, is it a positive even or an odd or a negative even?
Positive.
Okay, this is a positive even because both ends are up. Now, real quick, just to make sure you've seen an example of it, this is a what? Even or an odd?
Odd.
This is odd, but it's a positive odd because it ends up. This is a negative odd because it ends down. So if you need to remember the difference for the odds, if the back end is up, or let me say that different, if the forward end is down, it's negative. The forward end is up, it's positive. Okay? Alright, next one. As x goes to infinity, is that the right end or the left end?
Right.
That's the right end of the graph. Which way is the right end pointed? Okay, look at the right end of the graph. Which way is it pointed? What about the left end? So what are both of them going to be equal to? Positive infinity. And then remember, you can put the positive or not. That's up to you. If you put regular infinity, that means it's positive already. Okay, what about 2 from the left and 2 from the right? Okay, well, let's look at our graph. As x gets closer to 2, I'm going to come up here to my picture. 2 is right here. Do I have an asymptote? Then I'm just looking for the y value. So as I trace here, I want that value from the left. Now let's count it out. These are going by 2's. So this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. So it would be negative 18 would be what my y value is going to. Now, what about if I come in from the right side? Is it going to be different? No, look, as I trace my graph, I'm going to the same point because my graph is connected. So remember, when it's connected, your left and rights are going to come out to be the same. So I'll put same because connected. This is your homework. Okay, next one. I want the domain of the inverse. Then what do I need to find on this graph? If I want the domain of the inverse, then on this graph, what do I need to find? We need the range of f of x. This graph. Okay, so remember, range, you go lowest to highest. What is the lowest that my graph goes here? How low? Negative 18, and then how high does it go? I got arrows pointed up, so it goes all the way up to infinity. Make sense? This is your lowest. This is your highest. Now, actually, I have a mistake. Look at mine closely. What do I need to fix? I can put the plus sign, but it's not wrong without it. What's wrong? Bracket. Why do I need to put a bracket here? Because 18 is not an open circle, right? Remember, that counts as a closed circle, so I need to give it a bracket. Okay, let's write the equation of the graph. What were my zeros that I need to switch the signs up on? Okay, f of x, so if I have 1, what would my parentheses be? X minus 1. What's my next one? X minus 4. And x minus 5. Okay, then I count them up. I'm supposed to have an even number of x's. I only count 3. Which one was a double?
5.
The 5, so you have to put a little square on there. Make sense? Good. Okay, turn the page. 2 more left. Okay, we're going to do one of them. Which one do you want to do? Sure. You want to do number 4 or number 5?
We're not going to number 2?
Well, you're going to, so that's like your homework. You're just going to finish it. Okay, number 4? Okay. So first thing we're looking for are our roots, where f of x equals 0. So mark those on the graph for me. Now we're going to estimate since they're not right at whole numbers. Okay, so for this one, where does it look like it crosses? So this is negative 2, this is negative 4. What would be between that?
3.
Negative 3. Okay, then from here, this is 2, so what would that be? 1. Okay, then I have one more over here. Looks like it happens between 4 and 6. What could that one be? 5. So remember, when f of x equals 0, you should be looking at your x-intercepts. Okay, next question. When is f of x greater than 0? Greater than 0 means I need to be above the x-axis. And then less than 0 means that I need to be below the x-axis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade all the parts above the x-axis in pink. Okay, should I at the beginning of the graph be highlighting? Is it above the x-axis here? Yes. When should I stop shading? When I get to where? -3. Then I stop. What's this down here? Positive or negative? Negative until when? 1. And then it's positive. When does it turn positive again for the last chunk of the graph? At 5, and it stays positive forever. So what are the sections of the graph? Well, I would say from -infinity till -3. Union. Okay, my next little chunk, I'm going from 1 until where does my graph get cut off by an asymptote? From 1 to where? 4. And then remember, when I get to 4, because there's this dotted line here, I cannot cross 4. I have to stop my graph. And then it starts being positive again here at 5, all the way until when? Till infinity. Okay, then I'm going to label the parts of my graph that are below the x-axis. So I have one chunk here, one chunk here, one chunk here. So all of my orange parts count as below the x-axis. So look at your first little orange chunk. When does it start being below? At what x? Negative. Let's do this one first. That's -2, so we want to be at -3. Okay, then, when I get to the asymptote, I have to cut the graph off. So even though it stays negative until 1, I have to stop where? At -2, because what happens at -2? You have an asymptote. So this chunk here, this is part number 1. Part number 2, I'm in here. When does it start off? At -1, and it goes until 1. Okay, then my last part over here, it starts off negative at what asymptote? 4, and it stays negative until when? 5. Okay, now, somebody in, I think it was 3rd period, they were like, why do I have to break this up? Okay, the reason why you have to break it up is whenever you have an asymptote, you can't just pass over it. X is never going to be those numbers. So I have to keep these separated. I cannot put those together. And actually, let me fix this. This should be a -2. Because remember, I'm negative all the way up until I bump into that asymptote, which is at -2 here. Okay? Next one, as x approaches infinity, what end am I looking at? The left end or the right end?
Right.
The right end. Look at the right end of your graph. Where is it going? Okay, now, can it go up forever and ever and ever? No. No, when does it get stuck?
1.
At y equals 1. Okay, now look at the right end of your graph. As x goes to -infinity, that's the left end. I think I said that wrong, but you get the idea. Okay, left end of my graph. Is x going a certain direction towards something? Okay, what's it going towards over here? What's that y value? 1. Because 2's up here, yeah? So my graph is going to keep getting closer and closer and closer to my dotted line, which is at 2. Okay? Alright, we have 2 more left. These are both asymptotes. Okay, so the first thing that I want you to do is change the signs. Your 4 should be positive. This is my bad when I made it. And then your 2's down here should both be minus 2's. So if you'll make it minus 2 from the left, and then minus 2 from the right. Okay, let's say that we're doing this one first. So I want to approach x approaching 4. Do I have an asymptote at 4, yes or no? Yeah. Look at your graph. Is there an asymptote at 4? Yeah. Yes, it's right here. Which side do I want to be on if I'm doing the negative first? The left side or the right side? Okay, negative means left. So when you do your little L's, right, this is the left side. What is this side of the graph doing as I get close to that? Up. And so since I'm asymptoting up on the left side, what would I put for my asymptote down here? Infinity. Okay, next I want x to approach 4 from the plus side, which is the right side of the asymptote. Okay, VA standing for vertical asymptote. So come back up to your graph. Here's my asymptote. I don't want to be on the left side. I want to be on the right side. What is my graph doing as it gets closer? It's going down. So down on the right side of the vertical asymptote. And if it's going down forever and ever, I put negative infinity. Very good. Okay, next I want to do the same thing at negative 2. Look at negative 2. Is there an asymptote or am I putting a y value? Negative 2 is an asymptote. So draw it in. It's right here. First, I want to be on the left-hand side of the asymptote. Remember, this is my left side. This is my right side. When I'm on the left, what is my arrow doing? Going up or down? Down. What is it doing on the right side? Down. If both sides are going down, what are both sides down here? Negative infinity, negative infinity. And then I'm going to put, I'm asymptoting down on both sides. Bless you. And remember, you can asymptote up on one side, down on the other, or they can both go up, or they can both go down. You just have to look at the picture. Okay, the last one. I want the range of the inverse. What am I finding? Yes, ma'am. What am I finding for this graph if I want the range of the inverse? The domain. We need the domain of this graph. Okay, so remember, if you're finding it for the inverse, you have to switch it up because domain and range are backwards. So look at your graph. How far to the left? I'm going to come up to my picture. Remember, domain is going to be left to right. Okay, because it's your x's. So come up here to the top. How far back is this going to go? 2. But how far to the left is it going to go? Negative infinity. Then, how far forward is this piece of the graph going to go? What line can it not cross? Negative 2. So for this chunk of the graph, I would say negative infinity to negative 2. Now, negative 2 is a number. Do I give it a bracket, though, if there's an asymptote? No. So I'm going to put open because asymptote. Okay, now let's do the next chunk of the graph. So I already did this piece over here. Now I need to do this piece in here. How far back can this piece go? What can it not go past? Negative 2. What can it not go past here? 4. So I'd say from union, negative 2 to 4. Okay, then I have one more left. Look at your last little chunk of the graph. How far back can this piece go until it hits that line? What's your x value? 4, right? Because that's where my line is. And then how far is it going on this side? Infinity. So it would be from 4 till infinity. So here's what I would say when you're doing these to make it easier. If you have an asymptote, you're going to have to break your graph up. So negative 2, look, where were my asymptotes? Negative 2 and 4. Where did I have to break it up? Negative 2 and 4. Make sense? Good? Okay, so there are 5 questions total. We just did 3 of them. You have 2 left. Okay, so look at the last one. I don't want to do all of it, but I want you to mark your x-intercepts so we can all get on the same page about that. So where is my first x-intercept for this graph? 1. Where's the next x-intercept? 1.5, very good. And then where's the last x-intercept after that? Let's just say 2.5. Looks like maybe it's like 2.4 or something, but we're just going to estimate. Okay? And then from there, you should be able to fill out your questions. Okay, now the 2 on this one that I want to do, what is, as x goes to infinity, what is f of x approaching? Negative 3. What about as I go to negative infinity? 2. So when you come down to this row, my left end is going to 2, but my right end is going to negative 3. And then just remember, those can go to infinity or negative infinity, but if you have an asymptote, they're going to what that y value is, where the dotted line is. Okay? Alright. So you got 2 left. Jackie, I forgot to give you the sign message. Are you going to do it or not? So then when you put that check, and then if you're accepting it, then your application is due on Friday. Oh, that's good. Okay, do you have it filled out? Do you get your glasses in it? You what? Yeah, are you sitting up just And then I videoed the want the video, just message me on or I can let you just take a picture.
Yeah.
Just a picture.
She didn't do it. Miss? Yeah, I have a question. Okay.
Can I have the homework from yesterday?
Oh, yeah.
You can just put it back on the stuff. Did you say the notes or the homework, Miriam?
Because I can't find it.
Oh, let me see if you turned it in before you do it again.
We only you turned it in, so.
No, Miriam, you didn't turn it in.
Okay, Miss, can you have some apple? I know she didn't do it. My brain she didn't turn it in.
You have it with you?
Nope, she lost it.
No. Oh, wait.
She lost it. She was really never tweeting out when she started.
Check in a different folder.
Oh wait, you found it? I have the notes from the designer.
So I go to class.
Have you figured out?
No, not yet. I have someone coming to take it after school today. And then I should be able
You
to.
will not get no one to know it.
This mine's so bad.
You will just die with no.
Why is it bad? Yes.
Sarah, do you know what's this?
Shit, I don't know.
This is, nobody knows it.
I know it's the right.
No, it's not right.
It's right. If it's your left, it's their right.
No, you don't put right in this.
You do. We did it. I answered in class.
Me too, we don't put right in
Oh,
this.
it's the A-C-E-T-A-G.
Wait, say it again.
I think it's A-C-E-T-A.
A-C-E-T-A.
B-U-L-U-M.
L-U-M.
Yeah, answer that. Just put that. I think that's it. Oh, I spelled it wrong. But I did. Oh, you got an A.
I put the A.
You just
2 U's.
Oh, I said B-U-L-U-N.
Perfect. Will you put it on my desk?
Yes,
Found
2
it?
U's.
Yeah, I said B-U-L-U-N. Well, you forgot the U. So I was right.
So let's see.
Yeah.
So when it says greater than 0, so when I split it,
You're splitting it at the x-axis. So you want, if it's greater than 0, you want negative infinity to 1, not here because it's below, 2 to infinity, and then 2 to 2.5. So you only want the parts of the graph that are above the x-axis. So you would want all of this, and then all of this.
so for that one greater than 0,
You're looking for above the x-axis.
wait, what?
No? So like here's the x-axis, like you cut your nothing's here, nothing below. Then I want negative infinity till 1. Then this is covered. Nobody sees that part of the graph. Then from 1 to 2, 2 to 2.5, and then everything below is gone.
So what would this be?
So it would be from negative infinity till 1, because you're listing the x's, like the domain of the part that's above the x-axis.
So negative infinity to 1.
Okay, then the next chunk. Okay, when does it start being positive again? 1.5, right? And then until 2. That would say you put your little u.
So it'd be 1.5.
Cameron, I don't know what, I think you turn this on.
Wow. So would it be infinity to 1.5?
It would be 1.5 to 2. Because remember, 2, I have to stop. I have a dotted line here. So I cannot go past 2. Okay. And then for your last one, you would be from 2 until 2.5.
No, there is
I agree with you. The only time it'll have a grade on it is if it's not.
scapula.
No, Richard, Crystal, you're here.
S-C-U.
Do you want to cross out? Take 2 of them.
Oh.
Nora.
Oh,
there you are.
Scat.
Your homework on yesterday.
Yeah, I think this is that one. Well, go check the last one. The last question was right. We got it right. Wrong. What was it? I know it's scapula. Scapula something.
Not scapula.
Yeah, there's scapula in it. This one we put it.
Yes, but yeah, you need to put the whole thing in order to get it right.
Olive. Karen. Dunya.
It was just a one-time thing.
I don't get this picture.
Miriam.
That's the
Men.
Is it the feet?
Yes, B.
Isn't it tarsal? That's tarsal. Tarsal. S? I don't know. I think there's an S.
I'm gonna leave it.
Nora.
Well, it's tarsal.
Oh, the back of the thing. But it doesn't look like the back of it.
It shows the front. Look.
That's what I'm saying. See? That's why.
The hell is wrong with this place?
What quiz is this?
The one we're doing in class today.
Why are you doing it again?
Because she haven't posted the group one. She haven't posted the personal one.
Oh.
That's why I'm doing it.
I'll look at my dad.
She haven't posted the
If you want to finish it, then you can just give it back.
I didn't finish it, miss.
You had a few of your graphs that I circled, but you just never filled in.
Oh, okay. So this is a graph, miss, and that's it? Okay.
And you can do them maybe like tomorrow or Friday. You should
Am I
have
supposed to
time.
turn this into you or?
To your counselor.
Alright.
Miss, so I just put this one in and I get it right? The This one?
Uh-huh. And then just make sure you put asymptotes where you're supposed to. Okay, can I give you this? Marty, you still in here?
Miss, but I put it in the calculator and then that was the graph it showed me. Like that.
Nothing?
No, it showed me that graph, like three separated things.
Pull it out tomorrow. Like 1 minute. Unless you can sit after school. Or we can do it tomorrow.
I'm gonna do it tomorrow. Wait for me, y'all.
Because it's a bed seat. Where they're both equal. Alright, y'all. Have a good day.